Hey guys, let's get more news about Steelers, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. Wife of Browns star calls out Steelers fans after loss. The wife of a Cleveland Browns player was not happy with how she was treated on Sunday at Acrisure Stadium during an AFC North showdown against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Carly Teller, the wife of Browns Pro Bowl guard Wyatt Teller, posted a message about the situation following the game on X. The fans in Pittsburgh today were so blatantly disrespectful to me and the Browns girls. I've never felt so attacked by people who I literally did nothing to, Teller said. Very sad/embarrassing behavior. The rivalry has always been contentious, but the Steelers were eager to get revenge on the Browns for their loss on November 21st. Some additional trash talk between players like George Pickens and Greg Newsome added some extra attention to the rivalry. It's no excuse for treating family members of players poorly, and Teller found support in the comments. Sorry you had to deal with these savages, Carly. I know you repped our city and team with class. It's a shame you had to be exposed to such horrible people while simply cheering on your man. Us Browns fans will always have your back, one fan said. Another fan added, I'm sorry you were treated that way. That sucks. I'd imagine the same thing happens to some of the opposing team fans that come to our stadium. It's too bad it happens to anyone really. The game on the field was pretty ugly for the Browns, too. The Browns turned the ball over 3 times on a pair of interceptions and a fumble. Browns quarterback Jameis Winston was coming off a massive performance in a loss to the Broncos, setting the franchise single-game passing record. However, he didn't have the same spark and continued his rough run of turnovers. In that game, I feel like the Pittsburgh Steelers, they let the Cleveland Browns beat the Cleveland Browns, Winston said after the game. I don't believe the Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Cleveland Browns. I believe the Cleveland Browns beat the Cleveland Browns. The Browns have 4 games left and at 3-10 are in a position to land a prime draft pick. In addition to the turnovers, the Browns also missed a pair of field goals that changed the game's momentum. Dustin Hopkins missed from 38 and 43 yards against the Steelers. I still feel really good mentally, which might not make sense to some people out there. But I feel good. I'm not panicked, Hopkins said after the loss. I just need to find a good swing. He's now 16 of 25, 64% on field goal attempts for the season, but the Browns can't simply switch kickers. This offseason, they signed him to a 3-year extension, making him one of the highest-paid kickers in the league. If they choose to go in another direction and cut Hopkins, it will come with dead cap money the Browns simply can't afford. The Browns' final 4 games are tough. They'll host Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs next week. Steelers get the last laugh as Browns implode in Week 14 revenge game. The Pittsburgh Steelers entered Week 14 needing a home win against the Cleveland Browns. In their first matchup in Week 12, the Browns upset Mike Tomlin's team under the lights of Thursday Night Football. This time around, the Steelers got the last laugh. With George Pickens absent with a hamstring injury, Pittsburgh's offense had tremendous difficulty moving the football in the first half. This resulted in the Browns jumping to an early 7-3 lead. However, the best team eventually won out, as the Steelers went on to seal a 27-14 victory. At one point, Tomlin's team held a 27-7 lead in the fourth quarter and the game felt out of reach for Cleveland. However, the Browns had a chance to fight back and make the game interesting before shooting themselves in the foot. After the Browns forced a 3-and-out to open the fourth quarter, quarterback Jameis Winston capped off a 14-play, 79-yard drive with a 15-yard touchdown pass to tight end David Njoku. A few plays later, Steelers running back Cordarrelle Patterson coughed up the football and the Browns recovered at midfield. This gave Cleveland a short field and a chance to march down and make it a 1-score game. That's when the Browns out-Browned themselves. 2 plays after being handed a gift, Winston sailed a pass over the head of his intended target. The throw resulted in an interception for Steelers cornerback James Pierre, who was filling in for a banged-up Dante Jackson. Cleveland's defense held Pittsburgh's offense to -15 yards on the next 3 plays, but the final icing on the cake was Kadarius Toney's fumble on a Corliss Whiteman punt that was recovered by Steelers gunner Ben Skowronek. If the Pittsburgh Steelers wanted to be taken seriously as a bona fide contender in 2024, they couldn't afford to let the 3-9 Browns come to Pittsburgh and execute a clean sweep over their AFC North rival. Thankfully, the Steelers took care of business, with a little assistance from Cleveland. Before the Browns' late-game mishaps that drove the final nail into the coffin, Winston threw a point-blank interception to Keanu Benton in the first half on a screen pass, and kicker Dustin Hopkins missed 2 makeable field goals. Without Pickens in the lineup, the Steelers struggled to get things going offensively. Unsurprisingly, it ended up being the defense that bailed out a struggling offensive unit. Quarterback Russell Wilson finished the game completing just 15 of 26 passes for 158 yards, though he did cap off a pair of drives with touchdown passes. It's nice to know the Steelers can win comfortably without their top offensive weapon, but this may have had more to do with playing an unthreatening opponent than anything else. First call, Myles Garret, Browns family member sniped back at Steelers crowd, Steelers underdogs vs Eagles. Monday's first call has some complaints from Cleveland after the Browns lost to the Steelers on Sunday. The Steelers are underdogs in Philadelphia this week. The Chiefs pulled another rabbit out of the hat on Sunday Night Football. This time, an ex-Steeler was involved. We also recap the weekend that was for the Robert Morris hockey teams. Garrett's gripe in the late stages of the Steelers beating the Cleveland Browns 27-14, Pittsburgh fans started chanting, "Cleveland stinks." Browns defensive lineman Myles Garret was asked if he heard the chants and if he'll hold on to that for a long time. "Oh, yeah," Garret said in a post-game press conference. "We'll see them again next year." So, the end result is, we'll see if they have that same energy when we come to their house next year. Garret didn't have much energy throughout the early stages of the game. He only had 1 tackle on the stat sheet prior to picking up a fourth-quarter sack and a fumble recovery while the Steelers were up by 13 points. By the way, the Browns haven't had a regular season win in Pittsburgh since 2003. So it appears that Pittsburgh's energy has been just fine when hosting the Browns for most of the last 2 decades. Also, the wife of Cleveland guard Wyatt Teller, Carly, complained that Steelers fans were too mean to her and the other Browns' wives and girlfriends. Right. Because I'm sure friends and family members of the Steelers are so often treated like royalty whenever they visit Cleveland. Early underdogs: the Steelers are opening as 4.5-point underdogs in the Battle of the Keystone State in Philadelphia on Sunday afternoon. That's according to ESPN BET. Even though the Steelers are 10-3, I'm surprised the spread isn't larger. After all, the hometown Eagles are 11-2, and the Steelers haven't won in the city of brotherly love since 1965. That was 2 stadiums ago, in Philly. That game was played in Franklin Field, 6 years before Veterans Stadium opened. The Steelers lost 3 times there during the regular season, and have fallen 3 times at Lincoln Financial Field. Philadelphia is currently atop the NFC East by 3 games and is tied with the Minnesota Vikings for the second-best record in the NFC, a game behind the Detroit Lions, 12-1. They almost lost to 3-10 Carolina Sunday, as Xavier Legette made a diving attempt at a reception that carried him into the end zone with less than a minute to go. It would have given the Panthers a 23-22 lead with an extra point, but Legette couldn't hold on to the ball through the contact on the ground. Philly ended up winning 22-16. Penn State product Saquon Barkley had 124 rushing yards on 20 carries. He has an NFL-best 1,623 yards on the ground this season. And you, fan? What do you think of the situation of Myles Garret? Leave your opinion in the comments.